I want to talk about fucking Zayden Ryerson
Oh, I forgot about Zayden. Oh, Lord.
and also fucking Zayden Ryerson.
Mm, psychically.
So, which many of our listeners may be familiar because it is a very popular book series with the Fourth Wing and Iron Flame books. I just dipped my toe into the realm of romantasy. So I read those two, and I just finished Crave by Tracy Wolff, which is like a YA vampire romance. It's very shades of Stephanie Meyer, not quite 50 of them because it is a YA,
Yeah.
technically ish.
Ish.
And then I read T. Kingfisher's Paladin's Grace, which was honestly the best of the bunch.
Mhm.
And The Witch and the Vampire by Francesca Flores, which was a queer romantasy, which was lovely. I love a lesbian romantasy. Also, vampires and witches. Opening Fourth Wing was an experience. I listened to the audiobook because that's how I consume almost all of my media. An experience. If you are not familiar with the book, it is about a character, Violet Sorrengail, who is attending a war college for dragon riders.
Because she's soaring on the gales of wind on her dragon.
Yeah, yeah. She's the daughter of a general. She is disabled in some respect. It's sort of described that she's got like fragile bones. She was, I guess, sick when she was younger, or her mother was sick when she was pregnant. And so it's not expected that she's going to survive because it's like 2/3 of the cadets at this school don't,
Shit. That's not a good school.
which is just no, it's ridiculous. It's so fucking it's like we're going to spend all of this time training these people. And then if they don't get chosen by a dragon or they fail somehow, we're just gonna kill them. And it's like, honestly, you'd be much better suited to like, okay, now you're an infantry officer.
Oh, so it's not like they become officers and die in war. They just straight up get killed?
It's usually they end up dying in the incredibly dangerous environment that is the Dragon Riders school.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of like political intrigue, but most people are reading this for the smut. Or not necessarily. There is
It's known for the smut. Its reputation is defined by the smut.
it's known for the smut. Yeah. And quite frankly, I thought it was unimaginative as all fuck. um
Even though it happens in the imagination.
so one of the features of the Dragon Riders is they all have fun magical abilities. So Zayden Ryerson, who is the love interest, because all romantasy protagonists, male protagonists, have a couple of requirements. They have to be dark and broody. They have to be convinced that they are the most dangerous being ever, and they have to have an X in their name.
Mm.
The protagonist in Crave is Jackson with Jaxon.
Oh my god.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. And Zayden Ryerson is the son of like a former rebel leader who was executed, and the children of the rebel leaders all have to go through this Dragon Riders school because it's the school with the highest rate of deaths, basically, to prove their loyalty.
Mm.
So he has a vendetta against Violet Sorrengail's mother, who is the general that ordered his father's death, but he can't kill her because she bonds with a dragon. She bonds with two dragons because she's very special.
Oh, so special.
No one's ever done that before. She bonds with a dragon who is mated to his dragon. And so normally you only have a psychic bond with your dragon. But because the dragons are mated, they have a psychic bond, which then gives Xaden and Violet also a psychic bond.
Naturally.
And dragons and their riders, if the dragon dies, the rider also dies. The dragons don't necessarily die if their rider dies, but depending on the bond, they can. And so Xaden can't hurt Violet because it might affect him. It might kill him because of the psychic linky nonsense.
Mhm.
When she manifests her magic powers, for the first time. She manifests her magic powers for the first time when they're fucking.
Of course.
Because of course they end up, having the opposites attract bullshit and end up fucking. And she manifests her very lightning powers when they're fucking and destroys half of her room and sets things on fire and all of that shit. But then she like can't manifest her powers without sex early on. And so at one point she's like in class trying to manifest her powers and they're just having psychic sex
Oh
basically,
my
like
god.
psychic phone sex.
Oh, that's just imagine being a classmate in that room and going, "Hey, it's Violet acting kind of weird to you. Just don't look. Don't worry about it."
It's Violet, whenever she casts a lightning bolt, man, she like that's an interesting face that she makes.
Yeah, I have opinions about, there's some things that are fun and exciting and we can explore them in fantasy that in real life perhaps one shouldn't do. I think having psychic phone sex in class may be fine to explore in fantasy. In real life, please don't do that in class. Your classmates don't want that. That's not a considerate way to be. I don't care if it's the only way you can manifest your powers. That's uncomfortable. That's consent issues.
Yeah, she eventually like handles that. And
Does he have to be involved in the psychic sex? Is this something she can handle on her own?
well, you can't really psychically masturbate.
Why not? If you can bond with two dragons, why can't you psychically masturbate? That's going to be on our new Phantom Apprentice official merch. That's going to be on a t-shirt. It's going to be on a trucker hat. I'm going to get embroidering as soon as we're done with this monster recording session.
Just
Guess what you're getting for Christmas this year?
at all times. At all times, I am psychically masturbating.
That'd be a good bumper sticker.
I had somewhere to go from here.
I'm pretty sure there was a bumper sticker I saw once that was like, "Don't tailgate me, I'll come," or something like that. Let me Google that real quick.
That's incredible. So eventually they get their shit together. Can you send this picture to me so I can put it on our
Oh, that's
social
what I'm
media?
doing right now.
Thank you.
Okay, anyway.
Eventually they get their shit together. There is some like interesting politics to it. I think the political thriller aspects are written kind of interestingly. I was sort of like breezing through some of the sex scenes. Besides the psychic sex, honestly, that's like the most interesting bit. Oh, the other part about their
Mm,
weird psychic bond to their dragons, because their dragons are a mated pair. Their dragons also fuck like on the regular.
naturally.
And so because of the psychic bond, until she learns to block it out, she basically is just sitting there getting like randomly incredibly horny because of the like emotions traveling through the psychic bond. And also, like, she first encounters Xaden when she's like wandering through the woods trying to like figure out how to block this out. And he's just like smoking fantasy weed. And like that's
Oh
his
my
way of dealing with this.
god! He's a weed-smoking boyfriend!
He's a bad boy. Which is yeah, technically against the rules.
Mm. No, this is like he's like a fucking like the weed-smoking girlfriends, but he's the weed-smoking boyfriend.
Yes.
Good lord. Xaden, what the fuck are we gonna do with you?
Oh my god. It's ridiculous. It's a wild time. Crave was also sort of equally wild. It was a YA, so there wasn't actually any sex scenes. There's some making out. It's at a like high school for supernatural beings.
Hmm.
And apparently it's the start of a whole series. I don't know that I will be getting myself through the series. I'll probably read the next Iron Flame book when it because Iron Flame's the sequel, Fourth Wing. I will probably read the next one when it comes out because I feel like I'm like semi invested in the political nonsense now.
And you get through them alarmingly fast because you listen to them super sped up. You will text me in the morning, like, "Oh yeah, I started Fourth Wing." And then 48 hours later, I just started the sequel to Fourth Wing.
Yeah, they are like 21-hour long audiobooks.
Cheers.
So, one of the features that Xaden possesses, one of his magical abilities, is he's got shadow manipulation, which basically manifests as telekinesis. But it made me think about one, that time I got drunk and yeeted a love potion at a werewolf or something. Like, what was the title of that one?
Yes, that was exactly it. It's very, very good book. The Mead Mishaps series are excellent.
The Mead Mishaps are phenomenal. And also Hunt on Dark Waters by Katie Robert. Because both of those series, or both of those books, have elements where there is either manipulation of shadows or like telekinetic manipulation of the female main character by her love interest during a scene in which magic is actually utilized in the scene.
In a creative and innovative way. Because I think a lot of straight people books have it's not a problem because it's like reverse kink shaming. It's shaming them for not being kinky enough. But they will think that the scene that they have written is the edgiest possible thing ever. And then people whose brains are rotted like us will read it and go, "Oh, that's cute. Oh, you think that's what you think is really sort of dangerous and exciting? That's great. I love that for you." But compared to the rest of the literary landscape of comparable works, it's really not that much going on.
I was also at a Georgia O'Keeffe exhibit the other day, which was also quite fun.
We're just getting real comfortable with our audience today. How's it going, everyone? You've made it this
Good
far.
morning.
We need a lighter energy to pick up the pace in the middle here because
Yeah, the energy that we're bringing today is about as dark as Zayden Ryerson's shadows. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Fandom Apprentice. I'm Rin. I read Lord of the Rings as a child, and I am so fucking hype to end the fucking quest.
it's so good. It's really exciting. It's got surprises, it's got twists, it's got turns. And you are joining us midway through the same conversation we were already having because we did this all in one go. So,
It's been all
this
of
is a
5 minutes since we talked about this.
yeah. And who knows how long it's been for you. We'll decide how we want to release these. But this is more of the same conversation. If you haven't listened to the last episode, go back, listen to that one. We're just going to get right back into it.
Huzzah. So, my first impression here, I'm going to say something perhaps rather controversial.
Ooh, I love controversy.
Sam is a top.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, he is.
Sam is a service top.
Yes, I agree completely.
Mhm. Mhm.
He might not have been at the beginning of this journey. I mean, he might have, but he might not have. But after this whole arc of personal growth, he has found his confidence. He has hit his stride. Yes,
He's not a
100%.
dom, but he is a top.
No. Yes, they're different things.
Yes, we confuse those terms at our own peril.
Mhm.
Not unlike the peril that they are currently facing in Mordor. They are, drinking a little bit of water, trying to get Frodo to drink. They eat just, like, little bits of food.
And what does a top do if not try to get bottoms to drink water? It's all connected.
Well, I was just reading about Sam putting the cloak under Frodo's head and covering them with the robe of Lorien and, like, hoping against hope that this will protect them a little bit, trying to get Frodo to drink and eat, just, like, trying to make sure that he's okay. And, like, thinking back just all through, like, he's a top.
Yeah, no, that's caring. Frodo, God bless him, does not have the skills to either be a dom or a top. That requires a level of effort that only Sam is willing to put in.
Mhm, mhm. And then as they are looking at Mount Doom and how far away it is and how high it is, Sam, I don't think realized up to this point that they weren't coming back.
Yeah.
He was like, Frodo was resigned to it months ago. He Frodo was ready to die on this mission, but Sam always thought they were going to go home again until now. And in perfect
Mhm.
Hobbit fashion, it's because of the food.
Yeah.
Like, he counts out the food. He realizes that that is the limiting factor here.
Mhm.
They are not going to be able to make it home. They can make it to the mountain, maybe, but they will have no more food. They will get nowhere else.
Also, just contextually, full disclosure, I read this chapter fully before I went and took notes. Usually I take notes like as I'm reading, but you were really excited for me to read it and I finished the stuff that I needed to do, so I just sat on the couch and burned through it. So, my notes do not carry any suspense necessarily, but the chapter has plenty of suspense. So, we will try to convey that. But yeah,
Yes.
Sam's guesstimating how far they have to go, and he thinks it's probably at least a week of travel. And that's when he's really, like you said, figuring out about the supplies. But the bitter truth came to him at last. At best, their provision would take them to their goal, and when the task was done, they would come to an end. Alone, houseless, foodless, in the midst of a terrible desert, there would be no return. And we also get a couple of references to some new hobbits as Sam is thinking about food and thinking about his life back home and other things that he'll miss and never see again. We have a reference to Rosie Cotton and her brothers. And this conspicuous sudden mention of a girl hobbit who has literally never come up before this point, plus vague inklings that I have from the internet at large, leads me to believe that Rosie is going to be set up as some kind of love interest, some element of Sam's new life when he gets back to the Shire, despite literally never being on the page before this point, Sam never thinking or talking about her at all. I feel what we refer to as straight relationship brewing. Not because Sam is straight, but because Tolkien is straight. I We'll see. We'll see what becomes of that. But there she will be mentioned a couple of times as suddenly this thing that Sam cares about now, and I don't buy it. I don't like it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Sam can be bi, that's fine. He and Frodo can have a non-monogamous relationship, that's also fine. What's not fine is introducing Rosie at the end of this fucking last book. Why? Who is she? Why do we care about her at all?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I have some opinions about hobbits being non-monogamous. I think all hobbits are. There was a Tumblr post I read a while ago that was, putting this in better words than I do or that I could, but it was talking about hobbits are likely non-monogamous because, like, they're it's always talked about, like, they have big families, but
Hmm,
the birth rate of the Shire seems to stay fairly consistent, and it
interesting.
doesn't seem like there's a lot of, like, childhood death,
Mhm.
which would almost suggest that not everyone is having children, but they are all still having big families.
I like it.
Like, you have your hearthkin and your bloodkin and, your various partners that all live together and, like, I mean, you have, uh, Brandybuck Hall or, with the giant multiple generations of the Brandybucks all living there,
Mhm.
and then that adds a sort of extra little, like, level of strangeness to Bilbo. 'Cause not only did he not have any family, like, he took no partners at all, he's just living
Mhm.
alone up there in Bag End.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see how that would just make him extra weird.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he adopts his other sole bachelor, like, he adopts this other kid who also happens to end up growing up and becoming a sole bachelor.
Mhm.
Anyway, moving on. They travel for 4 days, hardly speaking, like, it's obvious Frodo's in anguish,
Mhm.
and the Lembas is what, like, keeps them going.
Yeah. Frodo's behavior is really weird. He, on the 4th day, just completely stops talking, and he keeps raising his arm to brace himself against a blow that never comes, and he keeps reaching for the ring but fighting not to put it on, and there's obviously a lot of internal turmoil happening that we don't get any insight into. We just only see the way that it's manifesting.
We After about 4 days, they have to turn off the road to get to Mount Doom, and
Mhm.
Sam offers to take the ring for a bit, and Frodo snaps at him again, and then again apologizes and says it's his burden alone, and if Sam tried to take it, he'd go mad. So Sam, instead, being the problem solver of the group, suggests getting rid of other weight, just anything else they have to carry. They get rid of their armor. Sam tosses his pack, including his cooking gear, which he's very sad about.
The clatter of his precious pans as they fell down into the dark was like a death knell to his heart. That part really got me. It is absolutely fucking heartbreaking because they are literally casting off everything that they don't absolutely essentially need and really just stripping themselves down to their barest selves before embarking on the last stage of the journey. And it's really symbolic and moving and just so sad that he's getting rid of his cooking pans, but they're dumping all of this stuff down into a ravine specifically so Gollum can't get it. Because if Sam has to give up his cooking shit, he will be damned if Gollum is gonna touch it. That would be that would be the worst possible fate.
I kinda, like, get this grief over the pots. I had to toss a pot a while back that, like, some stuff had burned in, and I was, like, weirdly sad about it.
Yeah, you go on a journey with it. I definitely have a strong emotional attachment to a lot of my cooking stuff because if cooking is something that's important to you, that's something that you spend a lot of time with and learning, the quirks of each piece of equipment and then thinking about all of the food that you've made with it for yourself and for the people that you love. It's a big deal.
So they keep the cloak, some elf rope, some way bread, water, Sting, the phial of Galadriel, and the bit of earth.
Mhm. And that is also I'm ignoring that. That is also interesting in the context of Sam giving up any hope of returning home, because the reason that Galadriel gave him that bit of earth is so that he could add it to his own garden one day. So whether it's because it's so precious just because it came from Galadriel and he wouldn't insult her by getting rid of it, or because there's still that like tiny glimmer of maybe possibly they might make it home one day, a tiny box of dirt is objectively not an essential item. The vial has magic powers and they have proven that it's useful. But the dirt is the one sentimental item that he's allowing himself to keep.
I've got a box of dirt, and guess what's inside it?
I don't know what that's from.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
I have never seen Pirates. Fun fact about me.
I think it might be the second or the third one.
Mhm.
Davy Jones's heart is inside a jar of dirt because he can't sense it, therefore, if it's technically on land. Uh, whole thing. Sam goes ahead and asks Frodo if he remembers the rabbit from the Herbs and Stewed Rabbit chapter. And Sam was like,
Mhm.
"It's the day I saw the elephant." And Frodo gives kind of like a little pathetic "woe is me" speech, but like actually woe is him. So
Yeah.
justified.
He's full emo right now. It's really exhausting. I mean, he's obviously justified in being full emo. This is a situation where that is warranted. But I am just remembering the very beginning of Fellowship and him just being a little broody baby. I'm like, yeah, oh my god, we get it. Frodo, you're suffering.
And again, we get the fucking phrase, the last stage of their journey. And we gotta put that on merch. I mean, I don't think we're not gonna get to merch at any point in the near future. But if we ever do, we gotta put that on merch.
It's fun to dream about. Yeah, because this is the last stage of their journey to Orodruin Came, which is finally kind of true, except there's another full day of travel before they get there. So it's not even really. And then there's still half the fucking book after this. So at least it is the last stage of their journey to this specific location.
Well, to this major part of the quest.
Sure,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have the emotional impact that maybe Tolkien wants it to have because he's really diluted its meaning.
Yeah. So they're taking their rest and Sam is complaining that he left it. "I didn't ought to have left my blanket behind," muttered Sam, and lying down, he tried to comfort Frodo with his arms and body. And my erotica novel addicted ass was like, "Oh, how did he use his body to comfort Frodo?" Chastely, that's how, I guess. But Frodo, like, can barely walk at this point, and Frodo and so that they've reached the base of the mountain, and Sam says, "I said I'd carry him if it broke my back." And he carries Frodo up the fucking mountain like Madame Zeroni said.
It's just it's so beautiful and it's so heartbreaking, and Sam is worried that he wouldn't even have the strength to carry Frodo, let alone with the physical burden of the ring, because he's carried the ring himself and he knows that it physically weighs you down. But Frodo is distressingly light, and it doesn't really cause him any strain at all. It says, whether because Frodo was so worn by his long pains, wound of knife, and venomous sting and sorrow, fear and homeless wandering, or because some gift of final strength was given to him, Sam lifted Frodo with no more difficulty than if he were carrying a hobbit child piggyback in some romp off the lawns or hayfields of the Shire. So, like, Frodo is a grown hobbit, and he should have more substance to him, but he's so wasted away that Sam can just carry him up the fucking mountain.
Then he says, "Come on, Mr. Frodo dear, Sam will give you a ride. Just tell him where to go and he'll go." He's a top. Sam is a top. He's a top.
Yeah, he's a top. It's unquestionable.
Uh-huh.
Except in that case, he would be doing the writing, but semantics. Well, I mean, if he's so
That's
not
always that's always been an interesting bit of phrasing to me.
well, I guess it depends on the position,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Because if it's like doggy style, but then also you could be physically on the bottom, but still be the penetrating party. There's options.
Yes.
Hmm.
So they're carrying or Sam is carrying Frodo up the mountain, and eventually they get sort of above a bunch of like they get above an area that smelled super noxious and now it's like clearer air. So
Hmm.
I did a little cursory research into volcanic gases.
Okay.
So one of the super common ones that you might know if you've ever been to like Yellowstone or Hot Spring or similar is sulfur dioxide. This is what makes things smell like rotten eggs.
Hmm.
Other common gases on it that are produced by volcanoes are carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, hydrogen chloride, and hydrogen fluoride, and a few others, right? Some of these gases smell horrific. Some of these gases have no scent at all. But a lot of these gases are denser than air. And so they tend to collect lower. And in the case of the volcano, they might roll down towards the valleys rather than stay up on the mountainside. But it is still emitting these gases. So it would still smell bad, but probably not as bad. And now that we're here, I want to talk about volcanoes because we're at
Hmm.
a volcano.
Yes.
Mount Doom or Orodruin is likely a stratovolcano. It's relatively short, it's only about 4,500 feet tall. Stratovolcanoes or composite volcanoes are built up of alternating lava and ash flows, and they don't flow very much. So it solidifies building up the cone of the volcano into sort of a higher mountain rather than spreading out with sort of slow flowing lava or quickly flowing lava, sorry, that ends up getting out pretty far before it cools like a shield volcano.
Hmm.
So particularly the way that Sam describes the base and then the cone together building up over it, it really suggests building up over several different eruptions.
Hmm.
Some of the most catastrophic eruptions in history and some of the most well-known volcanoes are stratovolcanoes.
Oh.
Vesuvius in outside of Naples in Italy, that destroyed Pompeii and Herculaneum in 79 AD is a stratovolcano. Krakatoa in Indonesia is a stratovolcano. That was one of the deadliest eruptions in human history. Mount St. Helens in Washington State is a stratovolcano. Mount Etna in Sicily is a stratovolcano. Mount Fuji in Japan and Mount Tambora, which I did not actually note where that is, but the explosion of Mount Tambora in the 1800s caused the year without a summer due to the
Mhm.
large amount of ash that it spewed into the atmosphere, cooling the planet by several degrees Celsius so that it
Yeah, we
was.
talked about that a couple episodes
Yeah,
ago.
I love the year without a summer. It's very fun. So that's my volcano discussion is just the sort of this is likely a stratovolcano. It's likely got sort of explosive types of eruptions, but it's clearly, and while it's not dormant because it's still producing ash and producing gases, it's likely not so catastrophically erupting as to cause it to be super dangerous to get close or causing destruction to passersby, like, who are going up to a dune,
Mhm.
and it's not so dangerous as to cause danger to, Barad-dûr, which is in relatively close proximity to it, a couple days away.
Yeah.
But they find Sauron's path to the mountain, and they struggle up it, and I think it's just wonderful dramatic irony that Sauron used this path to forge the ring, and now this is how it's traveling to be destroyed.
I love that so much. Full circle, like a ring.
When Frodo reaches for the ring, Sam Fireman carries him so he can't touch it,
Yeah.
and they're still managing to slip by undetected.
Yeah, and Frodo does ask Sam for help with that. He's barely they're climbing, by the way, literally laid low by this task, crawling on hands and knees across rubble on this path. And Frodo just barely is able to get out the words to ask Sam to help him to move his hands away from the ring. And Sam also sees a small black shape falling off a ledge above them. And it's fucking Gollum because we can't get rid of this
Gollum
guy.
with the igneous stone!
Ugh. Ugh. So Gollum is there. Yay. And
Because
he
he
and
knows that they're gonna destroy it.
yeah. And he and Frodo are locked in this combat basically right away. And Frodo's filled with this renewed vigor that basically only a direct attack on the ring could have possibly brought out. And it's a really sad and beautiful poetic parallel between the two of them that we get another version of again later. But to, see Frodo and what Frodo could become in
Mhm.
this place where the decision about the ring's fate is going to be made. It works really well.
Yeah, it's and Sam, as Frodo and Gollum are fighting, Sam sees a vision of a figure in white fighting off this crouching shadow. Then suddenly, as before the eaves of the Emyn Muil, Sam saw these two rivals with other vision. A crouching shape, scarcely more than the shadow of a living thing. A creature now wholly ruined and defeated, yet filled with a hideous lust and rage. And before it stood stern, untouchable now by pity, a figure robed in white, but at its breast it held a wheel of fire. Out of the fire there spoke a commanding voice. Begone and trouble me no more. If you touch me ever again, you shall be cast yourself into the fire of doom. And I love a prophecy.
Hmm. Especially a really clear one.
Mhm. So I was reading this in a couple of different ways.
Mhm.
One is you can read Frodo as this good figure in white fighting off against the shadowy figure of Gollum, the last gasp of hobbit goodness winning out. You can also read this as Frodo the Great and Terrible, like Galadriel, channeling the power of the
Ooh.
ring. Or, alternately, you could read this as not Frodo versus Gollum. You could read this as the good parts of Frodo and Smeagol both trying desperately to cast off the desire for the ring, represented by Gollum and Frodo snapping at Sam.
That is a compelling one. Did you come up with that just in your
Yes.
own brain?
Uh-huh.
I love you. You're so smart. That's
Guys, when I said this,
damn, that's
Sam's
great.
body physically relaxed.
Listen, you are known to have that effect on me. I am a simple gay person who thinks you're great.
I love you too, boo.
Anyway.
But regardless of Frodo and Gollum's fight, Sam decides, "Nope, this is my time, motherfucker. I get to fight Gollum now." And he gets up to fight Gollum and tells Frodo to go on.
Mhm.
So Frodo goes up the path. So Sam goes to fight Gollum, and Gollum ends up like on the ground begging for just a little more life. He knows that his life force is tied to the ring, so like when it goes, he's going to go.
Mhm.
And even now, Sam can't bring himself to kill Gollum.
Yeah, I wrote down the quote about it. It's kind of long. We can cut parts of it or we can just
Go for
paraphrase,
it.
but I'll read it anyway. Sam's hand wavered. His mind was hot with wrath and the memory of evil. It would be just to slay this treacherous, murderous creature. Just and many times deserved, and also it seemed the only safe thing to do. But deep in his heart there was something that restrained him. He could not strike this thing lying in the dust, forlorn, ruinous, utterly wretched. He himself, though only for a little while, had borne the ring, and now dimly he guessed the agony of Gollum's shriveled mind and body, enslaved to that ring, unable to find peace or relief in life ever again. But Sam had no words to express what he felt.
Yeah, and he kicks Gollum down the path. But of course, Gollum is trickery and turns to follow again.
Yeah. And Sam tries to catch up with Frodo. He pulls out the vial in desperation, but even that can't pierce the darkness. And he finally is able to get to where Frodo is and sees him silhouetted against the light from the fire of the volcano. And he's just standing incredibly still as if he's been turned to stone. And it's something is wrong here immediately.
Mhm. Yeah, it's we're at the heart of Sauron's power, of his craft. This is the birthplace of the ring. This is where its power is strongest.
Hmm.
And this is where Frodo decides that he will now be the master of the ring, that he will not destroy it, and he puts it on.
I fucking lost it at this point. I was horrified. I did not know that this would happen. I was not expecting it to happen. I was expecting there to be some kind of monologue and inner journey or something, and Sam would come and help in some way. I did not expect him to just fully give in to the corruption. It was really, really good. It was excellently done.
Mhm, mhm. And Sam goes to cry out, but he's too slow. He gets knocked over and is momentarily unconscious. And Sauron knows now. His armies end up faltering because the will that was driving them now is gone as Sauron drives all of his power towards Mount Doom. And now all 8 Nazgul left are heading there as fast as they can.
Yes, and part of it, you know, actually, now that I'm thinking about it out loud, I was going to say that part of it is just because the ring is back in the place where it was founded and Sauron has more attention there. But if that were the case, he would have noticed earlier. So really what's triggering it is Frodo putting it on and claiming it.
Yes. And as we've noted before, there is no way to fully claim the ring when you are not Sauron. It
Mhm.
doesn't truly serve any other master. But Frodo attempting to claim it is what makes Sauron go, "Ah, no, bitch, that's mine."
The ring's a snitch. The ring told on Frodo.
Yes, it did. And Gollum is there, fighting with invisible Frodo.
Mhm. Because if there is one thing that Gollum can do, it is find the fucking ring. And he did
Uh-huh.
not come this far for something as simple as invisibility to get between him and his precious.
Despite the fact that he couldn't find Bilbo initially, but now he's had 70 years to realize this is the trick. The fucking Bagginses are gonna turn invisible, and then I'm going to have to fight them.
Mhm,
And he bites the finger with the ring off, and Frodo reappears.
mhm.
Do you wanna talk about this?
So in all of the long quotes that I wrote down, I did not write down a specific quote for this part, but I was ultimately correct in my capital P prediction about what would happen with Gollum, in that it wasn't exactly what I predicted because he didn't have any moment of clarity where his conscience or the Smeagol personality took over, but he does do something unexpectedly noble and save the day in he so does he get pushed into the fire or does he just fall in the chaos of the fighting? I was so, like, swept away by the events at this point, I was not paying super close attention to
He
the
just kinda
details.
stumbled, like, he bit off the ring, and then as he's dancing around with it, he falls back off the edge into the fire.
As was prophesied just a few pages ago.
Uh-huh, yes. He touched Frodo again and was himself cast into the fire of doom.
And there you go.
So, I couldn't say it back in book 4 when you made this prediction, but
Of course.
you were correct. Gollum redeemed himself? Question mark? Like, he has a final moment where he is the savior of everything. It wasn't a heroic moment, but he did it.
And I'm kind of as much as I fucking hate Gollum, and I am on record on this podcast saying that I hate Gollum, he got what he wanted. He got the ring, and he knew, like we said, that he was going to die when the ring was destroyed. And so he didn't have to experience being separated from it again. And whatever amount of peace he was able to get from having the ring back, he got it, if only for a couple of moments, and he got to kind of go out in triumph. So, you know what? Good for him.
Mhm, mhm. But the ring is destroyed. Sam grabs Frodo, and as they exit Samath Nar, the forges at the center of Mount Doom, they briefly have a vision of, like, the greatness of Mordor, and then it all goes away immediately. It's all falling. There's an earthquake, Orodruin's about to erupt, there's thunder and lightning. The way Hey Sam loves Frodo is frightening.
I better knock on wood, baby.
The very land is rebelling against the destruction of the ring because so much of Sauron's power is wrapped up in Mordor, which is wrapped up in the ring.
So this was all literally happening. This was
Yes.
not symbolic visions. Okay, I was not totally sure because the word vision was in there. I didn't know if this was a metaphorical thing. But yeah, I wrote this is some wall of Jericho shit. This is just everything comes tumbling down and it's really satisfying, which is also terrifying,
Mhm.
but this was a good payoff in terms of immediate consequences for the ring being destroyed.
Yeah, the Nazgul, caught in the fiery ruin of hill and sky, they crackled, withered, and went out. Which cool, I was also kind of imagining them, like, screaming and then just fading and going higher pitched as they, like, implode on themselves and then pop like a cartoon.
Or those little I don't know if you played with these when you were a kid. There are those long balloons that you would pump up and then let them go, and they would make a really high pitched noise and whistle as they, like, flew
Yes.
away, like one of those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically. That's pretty much what I was imagining.
Mhm.
But that's it, the ring is destroyed.
And more importantly than all of the evil empire crashing down, because who gives a shit about that, is that Frodo is back in his right mind again.
Uh-huh.
Did you want to read the quote for that? Or
"Well, this is the end, Sam Gamgee," said a voice by his side. And there was Frodo, pale and warm, and yet himself again. And in his eyes there was peace now, neither strain of will nor madness, nor any fear. His burden was taken away. There was the dear master of his sweet days in the Shire. And then they talk about Gollum being the one who ultimately saved the day. But for him, Sam, I could not have destroyed the ring. The quest would have been in vain, even at the bitter end. So let us forgive him, for the quest is achieved and now all is over. I am glad you are here with me, here at the end of all things, Sam.
yeah.
Yeah, Sam just bonked her head against the mic like a cat.
Way to call me out.
I love you, but also I gotta tell our
I mean,
listeners.
how do you follow that up? Like, damn. I know that we have talked before about, if you don't want to read these books, that's fine. Just listen to the podcast. We'll give you a sense of what happens. But having gone on this very long journey and getting all of the context and all of the little details, the emotional impact of that line, I am glad you're here with me here at the end of all things. I'm fucking speechless.
And that is the end of the ring, but it is not the end of the story. There is more to do.
Oh yes, there is consequences. There's still a big chunk of this book left.
Look at all the consequences.
I don't want the consequences chasing me right now.
Yeah. Do we have anything else we want to talk about for Mordor, Frodo and Sam, ring destruction?
It'll be interesting to see how things continue to play out. Even though it's been a couple of days since I read this chapter, it still feels like so emotionally fresh. I don't even know how to begin to unpack it. All I can just say is that it's good. The emotional weight is there, the payoff is there. Everything has escalated to just these increasingly extreme levels of things. I don't have smart words because I am still just reeling from this, but it all works. It's a good payoff in terms of immediate consequences, and I'm very curious to see what happens. I don't know if the next chapters are going to be more Sam and Frodo, if it's going to be a POV switch. I have exercised admirable restraint and not read ahead, so I have no idea what's coming after this.
It'll be sort of interesting for the next few chapters because we have to resolve all the storylines and bring them all back together. Deal with the immediate aftermath because now we are all up to sort of the same exact point, roughly.
Mhm.
Right? We have the captains with Pippin out in front of the Black Gate and the battle raging, and we ended that battle with somebody shouting that the eagles were coming.
Mhm.
And now we have the destruction of the ring, which that battle was brewing a few days ago when all the orcs were marching north to Adun. And so now we have what will be the conclusion of that battle.
Mhm.
So I am very interested to go through the rest of this. We've got a little bit before what is actually my favorite part of these books, which is like the second to last chapter is actually one of my favorite parts of the books, and it's not in the movie.
Oh, spicy.
Yeah, no, I have opinions about it.
I'm excited to get to that.
Yeah, no, it's great. So, which means next time we will come back with chapter 4, The Field of Cormallen, and chapter 5, The Steward and the King. But until then, you can listen to us here on our feed. You can subscribe to our podcast and get notified of the new episodes as soon as they drop. You can listen to any of our backlog. We have now almost 30 episodes on the books, and we have several intermission episodes. We also have various social media. We are on Tumblr, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, technically, as at FanUpPod. You can follow us on any of those places. Most active on Insta and Tumblr. You can always send us an email at thefandomapprentice@gmail.com. And you can also leave a comment if you're listening to this on Spotify or on YouTube. You can leave a comment on the episode.
You can slide into our DMs on Insta. Even if I sometimes avoid commenting on things because I don't feel like I have anything to say, just, I liked it. It was good. If you just want to say that, say, good show, thumbs up. We'll take it. We'll take compliments.
No, like honestly, it makes our day. I had a friend message me being like, "Hey, I really like your podcast. I finally got around to listening to it. It's really fun." It was like, "Cool. That's what I want to
Yay.
hear. This is fun."
It's validation. It's really nice. We like it. So, you don't have to prepare any eloquent thoughts if you just want to be nice to us. We'll take it.
Yeah. So you can catch us next time in 2 weeks. We release every other Tuesday. Leave us a 5-star review if you like what you're hearing, and we will see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
The Phantom Apprentice is produced and edited by Rin and Sam. Our music was composed and performed by James, and our art is by Casey Turgeon. This podcast is created for non-commercial entertainment purposes, and the opinions expressed therein are our own and are not reflective of the opinions of any other person or organization. The content discussed is the property of the Tolkien estate and is used here under fair use.